welcome back to another new edition of Windows on Current Affairs. And actually, today and tomorrow are very special days for all Egyptians and probably for all Arabs, because this is a day, tomorrow is a day that is marked on every Arab's calendar. It's a day that marks a day of dignity, a day of victory, a day of glory for all Arabs, not only Egyptians. A day that all Arabs were united on one hand to be able to register and write down a history of glory and victory in the books of history. Today tomorrow we're going to be commemorating the 50th anniversary of the October War victory 1973. Actually, that day is very important to all Egyptians. It's a day that we restored the dear lands that was taken from Egypt. It's a day that we restored our dignity. It's a day that we crossed over to the other side, where we grabbed and earned victory by our own hands with the blood and tears with our glorious martyrs. May they rest in peace. And of course, whenever you ask any Egyptian about the 6th of October, they are going to tell you a lot. And the reason why we today commemorate that particular glorious day is that we are also these days, and I mean during these years, we're living these days of victory also, days of glory. And those days are going to be registered in history also, because we are continuing the legacy of the victory of October War, because Egyptians are building a new republic, because Egyptians are building a new infrastructure network of roads, because Egyptians are building the Egyptian character, regained the dignity of Egyptian characters, kicked off terrorism, and of course is building an empire, an economic empire, on the hands of a glorious president and a leader and a savior to Egypt, President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi. So commemorating this year, the victory of October War holds a special memory to all Egyptians, because we feel very happy that we are continuing the legacy of those glorious days with another victorious leader, and hopefully looking to a very prosperous future. And of course, on that very day, we're very delighted to be having with us Dr. Hussein al-Banhawi, our dear guest, and he is a member of Cultural Supreme Council. Good evening, Dr. Hussein.
Good evening to you and all the audience.
Right. So, of course, today we're commemorating 50 years.
50 years, yes. 50 years, and I do remember when we won the victory and when we won the war in 1973. I was still young, and I remember how we were very happy at these days. So we are commemorating nowadays the 50th anniversary, and this is a glorious day.
Right, it is a glorious day. But then there were elements for that history. Whoever who watched Egypt back then at that time, of course, Egypt was coming from a very frustrating phase of time, because it was a defeat for the army, and people were very down. Their morale was very down, and also were not enthusiastic. They needed that victory. They were looking forward to that victory, and it was planned for to be registered in history the way it was planned for, the way in military science it is now taught to leaders.
Yes.
To learn.
The new generations.
To new generations. It was back then in 1973.
Yeah.
And today in 2023 and the years that follow, still leaders of the world, military leaders, up to that war planning and with respect.
This is true.
And amazement.
And we must tell our sons and children how the Egyptian soldiers were brave, and how the military forces, the Egyptian military forces, achieved this miracle, because enemies thought that they defeated the Egyptian army. But the Egyptian army never been defeated throughout history. If they lose one battle, they always have the final goal, and they have the final victory in all their battles throughout history. And the Egyptian forces and the Egyptian military forces have a long history actually of achievements since the beginning, the dawn of history. The first battle, organized battle in the world was Kadesh, about 5,000 years ago, and it was organized very well by the Egyptian military forces, and they always state in the history of military all over the around the world that the Egyptian forces always have the last word and always have victory in the end.
Right, of course. People who probably haven't have a comprehensive look or a study over that very particular war, 1973 war in the Middle East, and the victory of Egyptians over the undefeated, legendary, as they thought, as they used to say.
They thought so.
Of course, enemy, army, the undefeated army, and all those claims, false claims that were proven to be so false and so fake. But victory doesn't come like that overnight. Victory comes with blood and tears. Victory comes with persistence. Victory comes with study and surveillance. And victory comes with planning and knowledge. It doesn't come like that. It's not. It does not come as a stroke of luck.
No.
As people think. So
never.
The war, the way we planned for that victory, the way we had those glorious, smart leaders, respectable leaders, because the Egyptian army dates back to years, thousands and thousands of years of excellence. It is not a history of 1 or 3 or 5 or 20 years. It's even it dates back to Ahmose, the pharaoh leader. So the reason why I'm talking about that, because we need to talk about the important elements that led, or steps that led to that victory that stunned the whole world.
Yes, actually that proved at that time that Egyptians can do what they are determined to do. After the defeat of 1967, which could not be actually called we were not defeated. It was a trick. And Nasser at that time, President Nasser, led the way, led his forces, led the military forces to be reorganized in a more modern way. And also when Sadat took over and became the president, he made a plan, very well organized plan with his assistants, and proved that the military forces of Egypt could do miracles in a very short time, while enemies thought that we need 50 years to win such a war, or to fight again after 50 years, as they said, as they claimed. But that was false. We proved to the whole world that we are able to do what we determined to do, and what,
as long as we are good at it. And
yes.
But then also, mind you, that Israel was backed by power countries at that time also.
Yes, that's one of the things. But as a matter of fact, it was the cunning Sadat who planned.
All the leaders. It was not only Sadat, because there are other heroes.
Yes, of course. But Sadat led the forces actually, and planned very well the way, and paved the way to that battle, the 1973 battle, and we won. And I remember this time, when I recall that at that time, it was the 10th of Ramadan in 1973. And remember when we were having iftar at that time, when the news came that we won the war, and when the news came that we defeated the enemies, we were at that time just dancing while the iftar was preparing.
It was in Ramadan also.
Yes,
we're gonna talk about the part of Ramadan, because Ramadan is a holy month for for Muslims generally, Arabs and Egyptians and all Arabs, and they fast. They fast from dawn and of course till after
till Maghrib. Yes.
Yes. So or to sunset. So that was a day of fasting.
Yeah.
We fast from food entirely,
Yes.
even from water. We do not
True.
drink water. Of course, the body is not in its full force. So the soldiers and the officers and the leaders and everybody was fasting. Fasting for Muslims, they would go just to do simple work.
Yeah.
It's not required to exercise a lot of fatigue and all that. So it was a day fasting for Egyptians, and the element also of the Barlev Wall.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that great leader,
Yeah.
the engineer
Yeah.
at the Egyptian Armed Forces, who had that brilliant idea, which
Yeah.
was the taking of the land, the taking off of the whole war. I mean,
Yes.
the one great, glorious step
Yeah.
of bringing down the Barlev Wall,
That's
which no one could have ever imagined.
Yeah.
It did not cross anybody's mind. So, not even that we conquered them, not even that we crossed over to the other side of the border, but we also brought down their unbelievable, undefeated Barlev Wall. Talk to us about that wall, and why was it so legendary according to the quotes and statements that came by the official that time, Golda Meir,
Yeah.
and other ministers from the Israeli cabinet, who were at astonishment, and it was in full unbelief of what's happening.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, I must state one thing, that Sinai Peninsula has the longest fighting record throughout history. This piece of land, the Sinai Peninsula, is one of the most of the longest history of fighting, of battles. The Israelis and the enemies, when they built that barrier, they thought that they will be protected from the Egyptian attacks, but they were just dreaming, because it was, despite the fact that soldiers were fasting, that leaders were planning everything, but when the battle started, the soldiers determined to continue their fasting, and they were shouting, Allahu Akbar, God is great, God is great, and
Which
they
lifted up the spirits.
yes,
of
which
the soldiers.
raise up their spirits, and they also determination to erase this
This false
defeat and this false enemy
claims
by the
But
enemies.
then let me tell you something also, Dr. Hussein, is the fact that they built that huge wall,
Yeah,
which was almost like it was something against them, because they almost like building a barrier between you and your enemy. You
Yeah.
don't want anyone, you don't want your enemy to have anything to do with you, but you also are building a barrier that you cannot see what's happening on the other side.
Yes,
So
sir.
that was not smart on the, because
Yeah.
they always claim that their army is the undefeated, the most strongest, the most smart, the more sophisticated
they
army,
were just
and they were backed by the American army.
of course
Yeah.
they were backed
And
by
all that, it
the
was not
American
right.
Europeans as well.
And Europeans. So we cannot deny that there is a role for the Renaissance,
Yeah.
also forces that were doing some work of surveillance over all the area,
Yes, true.
to be able to detect what's happening behind. And of course, I'm not an official, I'm not a technician, I'm not an expert at military war, but I could easily detect that there was a good deal of Renaissance work
Yeah.
that could detect from far what's happening on the other side.
It's true,
Because
yes.
it was not a story of just bringing down a wall and
No,
you
no,
could
no.
find the tanks of the army pointing the bombs over to the Egyptian army. It's a whole job.
Yeah, mind you also that the Israelis or the enemy actually extended some pipes with napalm fires, and the Egyptian forces managed to block these pipes before the battle start.
Before, so that was after the Barley War.
No, before
Before bringing
yes, before bringing
So
down the
can you
pile.
please tell us, let's elaborate how did they manage, because this is very heroic.
It is. Actually, there is a special troops, there are special troops who were trained very well on doing so, because these pipes extended from behind the Barley wall and extended in the Suez Canal. So anybody tries to cross the Suez Canal, they will start to push these napalm fires through
To blow
the
up
pipe,
the canal
to blow
itself?
the canal. So our forces, special trained forces, managed to block these pipes before getting down or knocking that Barley wall. And that was brave and great.
It's unbelievable.
Yes.
Because our, special respect to the Egyptian intelligence.
Yes, of course.
Because without one of the most and the foremost and best intelligence in the whole world is the Egyptian intelligence. Haven't they detected that particular trick,
Yeah.
it would end in a catastrophe. It wouldn't end that way.
Yeah, yes, this is true. And mind you that when we recall these events, I recall it with proudness, because these military forces has proved throughout history that they are really the best soldiers in the world, and this is proved, and this is approved by militaries in different countries, even advanced countries, and in Europe, in America. Kissinger himself, when he said we were just cheated by Sadat. We never
It was
expected.
not only cheating, it was a collaboration of one of the best intelligence worldwide, #1 Egyptian intelligence, detecting the whole story and doing a work probably could date back to like 3 or 4 years before.
Yes.
It is the Air Force also, it is the Navy forces.
Navy
it
force.
is the, what other forces, I mean?
Yes.
It is the commandos.
They all collaborated, actually.
So it was not a
It was
one-man
an
show.
epic,
It was
yeah.
a collaboration of a very respectable, strong, glorious army.
It's true.
From where we stand, where we sit here, we could send them their best gratitude and greetings on that very special day, commemorating with them the glory of that day. Because without those men, we could have never been there.
That's true. This is true.
Right. So after we crossed, it was, and they tried to overcome the surprise and everything, and they were shaken and all that. But again, they pulled themselves together and called for their allies, and they allied on us. Yeah. And from here, the Arab spirit rose.
Yes. Actually,
which was another important step.
Yes. Actually, the Arabs at that time were feeling that we will not win again, or we will not defeat our enemies. But it was surprise to some of them. That encouraged them to more support, and I remember that they stopped supplying the West with petrol, and that is actually made a case of
a turning point.
Yes, and you know that the West in general depends on the Arab petrol mainly. When the Arabs when the Saudi Arabians and Gulf countries stopped supplying the West started to know that this area is important to them, as important as Israel. So
and nobody could fool with this.
Yes, they started to look up their policies again. They started to review their policies towards the area, the Middle East, and that is actually paved the way to the peace treaty, which came afterwards when Sadat announced that he's determined to go to even to Israel to achieve peace to this area. And they were surprised. They never expected so. Sadat actually played that role very cleverly when, as most of the audience might know, when made Omar Sharif, the actor, to telephone Begin to tell him that Sadat wants to visit Israel. Begin never expected so. So he said to him, I will receive him and I will be glad to receive him in Israel if he can truly come to Israel. Then Sadat announced in one of the most famous programs in the American television that he will go Israel to achieve peace after he won the war.
That was with ABC News, Peter Jennings?
Yes,
he was interviewing him at the Pyramids Plateau?
That's right, yeah. And what happened, that the whole world supported Sadat. And when Sadat went there,
it was an act of bravery.
Yes, act of bravery.
To your
but mind you,
speaking and meeting members of parliament. And
we did that while we have victory, while we stand on a ground.
We called for peace.
Yes, we called for peace, and that because Sadat, when you called for peace before war, nobody gave him an attention. Nobody listened to him. But when he was in a strong position, then everybody was listening to him. And he achieved peace. So he was the man of war and peace.
He was a man of war and peace, and he became the most, he was very popular back then.
It's true.
And it's true that President Sadat was a very popular Arab president, and the other one who surpassed the popularity of President Sadat after years and years and years is President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi.
It's true.
So that is also...
No, but when
what do you think is that? I mean...
But when I'm fond of history. I read history very thoroughly.
But even President Sisi is even more popular than
I'll tell you. Every one of the Egyptian leaders came in the right time. Now, Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, he came just in the right time for this country. Why? Because after some of the experience which we went through,
not only experiences.
When we were defeated and we won the war and we won the battle. It was 1973, and there was the peace treaty, and there was the economic policy, open economic policy afterwards. The developing of this country needs more efforts. Fattah al-Sisi, when he came, Egypt was in chaos. Because of
a worse even state than...
That's true. So he came in the right time for this country. And when we say the new republic, we mean that there is a new republic will be established in this country. Why? Because we have the experience of all the 5,000 or 7,000 years ago. We must study this history thoroughly, and we must take lessons of what happened.
But to be honest with you, we never expected before President Sisi, not in our wildest dreams, in our best dreams, that a leader would come. We were longing, we were opting, we were begging the Egyptian military back then. We were standing in the streets and, you know, in 44 million going to the streets, and we remember together kicking out the terrorist organization of the Brotherhood, and calling for the Egyptian army, and chanting the name of President the Minister of Defense back then, Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, and calling for him to save Egypt and all that. But he never stepped into office, in spite of all the calls, in spite of all the pressure on him, except when he would say, I would come in a democratic way.
Yes.
I would never step into office without a democratic way. And he gave them a chance.
It's
until
true.
you know the history unfolded, and you know the rest of the story. It is not our topic now, but he came with a as a fairly elected president. He was competing with another Egyptian nominate, and he was elected enormously with even voices of all Egyptians, because
It's true.
he was our savior. Without him, we'd have
I
been to another
always
place.
say that Fattah al-Sisi is a gift from heaven.
Of course.
He is true. That's truly.
Bless him. And bless our army also.
Yes, I believe in so. Because
Right.
he came in the right time to save the chaos of this period, of this time of history. And he managed to get these Egyptians again organized, and he managed to make developments in all parts of Egypt. And that's my respect to that leader and to that man.
Right. We're going to go to a short break, and we'll come to continue this very interesting topic. So stay with us. Welcome back. We are still with our dear guest, Dr. Hussein Al-Banhawi, member of the Cultural Supreme Council. And of course, we were talking, you were telling me while we were in our break that of course we were gifted. I mean, Egypt is always gifted because it was mentioned in
Yes, true.
most of the holy books, not only in the Quran.
That's true.
So Egypt is gifted with many gifts. With the River Nile is gifted with the wonders of the world, two of the wonders of the world, or maybe the greatest wonders of the world.
It's true.
And it's gifted with history, it's gifted with science and development, and we've seen our history of ancient Egyptians, and it is also gifted from time to time by leaders.
It's true. Yeah.
And you were talking about President Sadat, and he was so fit for that particular era of time.
It's true.
But then, talking about President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, for a time like that, when there is the fourth generation war, and when there is a totally different change of time, where the law of nature is completely changed, this is the man for that particular time.
It's true.
This is a leader who can effect development, who can conquer terrorism, who is very much talented with the gift of foreign diplomacy.
True.
And foreign power.
That's true.
He is a strong leader.
Yeah.
And he is a leader of the army also. I mean, he's a military man, a former defense minister. So that we're talking about a very powerful man for a very, very powerful army.
That's true.
In the peninsula, I mean, in the Middle East. But still, he always, because he has foresight, is thinking or goes to the foreign diplomacy. And through foreign diplomacy, we retained our leading role.
Yeah.
And we are, I mean, the whole region is following our footsteps because of President al-Sisi. He also is talking about a vision for 2030. He is talking about a vision of 2063.
Yeah.
He talked about climate change and the dangers of climate change before even the whole world was talking about it.
It's true.
He is talking about women empowerment, and many of his statements said, I would rather elect myself as a minister for women.
Yeah.
I mean, he is talking about minorities. He's talking about so many important values. that
which we
a
needed.
powerful leader would
needed
never
a
need to talk
very
about
long
it.
time, yeah.
Of course we need it,
Yeah.
but he is a powerful military leader. Probably he wouldn't talk about it.
Yeah.
But he resorted to all those values. So this is the era that we're living in.
Yeah.
We needed someone with this character to be able to take Egypt
This
from
is
where
true.
we were to where we are now. If you like to elaborate.
Yeah, actually, we always say that Egypt as a country is witnessed and cared directly by God.
That's true.
This is true. And when you see, read the history of Egypt, which is very long history, you will find that from time to time comes a leader who could shape and achieve the hopes of his people. So Abdel Fattah el-Sisi actually is achieving a very, very important and brilliant hopes of the whole people of Egypt. We wanted to be an advanced country. We wanted to achieve a lot. And when you look throughout the whole country in different governorates in different parts of Egypt, you will find day and night there are construction everywhere. There are some new projects. There are some hopes achieved. So I think that is, as I said, gift from heaven, and we need to actually be in support of him, because he wants Egypt to take its part of the true part in the advanced countries in the whole.
Exactly. Although that we're running out of time, but also we still have a lot to talk about that victory and those very glorious memories, and we can't help but draw comparisons also. Whenever we remember that victory, we feel pride.
Yeah.
We feel the pride when we're talking about it.
Yeah.
And even when we go to other countries, they look to us with respect.
It's true.
We can compare that feeling to where we are now, when the time when the Brotherhood was taking over, and later on when we are President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi took over as a president. Wherever we travel outside or we talk to people who are not Egyptians, we feel pride.
It's true.
People talk to us with respect.
Yeah.
They know what does it mean to be an Egyptian.
Yeah, and what does it mean to win a battle which the whole world thought that we will never win?
Are we talking about 1973?
1973.
Or the battle with terrorism and the Brotherhood?
And both of them, actually.
That's even it's a more difficult battle than the 1973.
It was
because they were also backed by forces.
Yeah.
And financed.
And mind you that we defeated recently terrorism in different parts. Sinai now is safe after a very long time of chaos.
It's a land of development now, and projects.
It is.
Mega projects.
It is.
But that, it probably took a lot of bravery from President el-Sisi, because it was not a war. It was not like the terrorist stereotyped war like in the 1973.
Yeah.
It was not a direct war, but it was something that would require a lot of strength and a lot of, trusting God and trust from the people in their Minister of Defense to kick out those terrorist organizations that are fully financed by international, some communities, by some countries, power countries, rich countries financing them.
Yeah.
And they had no values or regulations. They could kill armless civilians, they could kill children, they took children as shields.
It's true. So I'll tell you that we have a battle now. This battle is how to develop this country to take its part, its true part in the world, because we need the efforts of every citizen in Egypt to support the developing plans and the developing goals which will make this country in a better in a better standard, in a better level. That will need the efforts of every citizen and everybody. So I hope that as we won the war in 1973, we will then the battle of developing and the battle of overcoming the terrorism and the state of chaos which happened during the Brotherhood time. I hope that we will be able to do so very soon after President Fattah al-Sisi will inshallah take power again in the coming election.
Hopefully, inshallah, with all our might, we are looking for even a more development with President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, and we after him, of course, backing him up. And I guess on this very beautiful note, I would like to end it here. Of course, Dr. Hussein al-Banhawi, you are a member of the Cultural Supreme Council. Thank you so much for coming over to the program and sharing your thoughts with us.
Thank you
Best
very
of luck
much.
to
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you. It's our pleasure. And I guess this would bring us to the end of this edition of Windows and Current Affairs. Many thanks to all of you, and happy 50th anniversary for all Egyptians commemorating the 1973 October War and its victory. And until we see you again next week, that's goodbye.